My youngest was 2.5 and diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and we're 2,000 miles away from home and no family. And who stepped up and was there is the organization that I was in at the time. Provided me the opportunity to have the time off, take care of my family, and be where I needed to be at that moment. Um,
I'm sure
but
that's pretty hard on
it was something that I would never have guessed would have happened or wish upon any family, let alone a military family that doesn't have, grandma and grandpa next door that can watch the kids.
Let's talk about the family, and not just any old family, the military family, one that takes care of his own. We're going to get with an active duty soldier that's been in for 17 years. Let's hear his story and his experience. Come join me as we cut down some brush.
My name is Ben Peralta. I've been in the Army 17 and a half years. Currently stationed here at Fort Eustis, Virginia. I'm a first sergeant with the aviation unit.
How's your experience so far been in the Army?
I could say that the Army has definitely provided me growth and opportunities. When I joined the Army as a young 20-year-old punk, I knew that I wanted to leave home and I wanted to go, find some adventures. And I think that the Army absolutely has provided that opportunity for me from the beginning all the way up until now.
And what kind of, like when you said opportunities, what opportunities are you talking about?
Just basic, traveling adventures. When I left home in 2007, went to basic training, AIT, and then when the Army told me I was going to South Korea for my first duty station, honestly, I was in shock. I was like, man, what is this going to be about? But when I got there and seen what the culture was like, not only in the country, but the Army culture itself, I knew that being far away from home, that I had a local family even so far away that I could lean on. But just the adventures that you would go on and be part of, across the world was something that I enjoy doing.
You said you had a family away from the family. Can you expand on what that means?
I think the Army in general, and you know this, most veterans know this, is that, we are together all day, every day, sometimes for weeks, months at a time. And you grow close to people. When you hit adversity, I think it builds character and growth. And when you're living through those times with people, those are memories that you'll never forget. And when you say family, it's like if you ever need somebody, you hope that you can rely on them. And I know that in times of need, if I needed to call somebody, I would.
Yeah, I think that applies to not only like at that duty station and while you're there, but as throughout life, you can a lot of times you can call these veterans or your battle buddies and say, "Hey, man, I'm going across the country and I'm going this way. You care if we meet up at some point in time?" And ultimately, you'll meet up with that person, and it's like you never left at all.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had, quite a few times along my journey that I've had that happen. Exactly like you said. Like I was in South Carolina, and I had some friends moving from Texas to Fort Eustis, and they were able to stop by and we hung out for a little bit. Recently here, I had a buddy that I went to high school with. Shoot, I haven't seen him since I think 2012 when I was ripping into Afghanistan. But we came across each other in Kyrgyzstan of all places. Like I was walking through the barracks in Kyrgyzstan. It's cold, it's icy, it's super shitty outside. And there's a kid I went to high school with. He was National Guard ripping out. But then last year, actually it was earlier 2024, the same guy that I haven't seen in 12 years that I went to high school with joined the Air Force and was going to his tech school up at Fort Gregg Adams.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, so he came down to visit. I went up to his graduation, and it's just cool to have that military connection, even though we have childhood connection as well.
Yeah. You think that the world is so big, but at the same time it's so small. I remember I was stationed at Fort Lewis in Washington State, and we get this new soldier, and his name was Stewart, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, hey, man, trying to process him, just kind of talking to him. And he's like, normally I ask the normal questions of like, hey, how old are you? What's your MOS, your background? Where are you from? Kind of thing. And he's like, oh, I'm from Maryland. He had a real deep voice. And I was like, Maryland? I'm from Maryland. He's like, I was like, what part? He's like, Pasadena. I'm like, I grew up in Pasadena. He's like, and there's only a couple high schools in Pasadena. So I asked him, I was like, what high school did you go to? He said, Chesapeake High School, same high school with me. And so we went down this like little road, and to find out that I know his sister and I've been in his house before without ever knowing the soldier.
Oh, wow.
That's a wild, like, you don't know who you're about to meet or how it all kind of connects, but over time you'll find situations like that, or where you're just finding people that you've known, 5 years ago in a certain place, and you see them in a totally different area, and you just meet up and you have that relation.
It's crazy in how big the world is, but yet how many times that happens, right? The amount of times that I've seen people here at Fort Eustis, but I've known either somebody that they know, or, I mean, when I was a drill sergeant at basic training, I had a soldier that came here to reclass to aviation, and I was getting soldiers on a bus to go to the FTX one morning, and I hear a voice, "Hey, First Sergeant, were you my drill sergeant?" And I was like, "Holy cow!" Like, but having those interactions, and this is 6-8 years ago that you see these people, and then it comes back around.
The Army's 1 million strong. That's what's crazy. There's a
Right.
million people out there in one organization, and you still run into these same people all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the Army side of family. What about like your family? How has it been during the last 17 years?
I mean, that's another crazy Army story, right? Like, I'm stationed in Colorado. I have a friend that I grew up with. He's working at the ski resort in Keystone, Colorado.
And you're from where?
I'm from Ohio.
Okay.
So he's working out in Keystone in the winters, and on my 4-day weekends, I would go out to the ski resort with my buddies, and we'd hang out. Well, one weekend he brought some friends from Ohio out to Colorado, and ended up being then my future wife.
Yeah.
It's crazy. She's from Ohio. I met her out in Colorado in the ski resorts at Keystone. And just like, if I wasn't in the Army, I wouldn't have been in Colorado. If that guy that I grew up with wasn't in Colorado, she would have never probably had the opportunity to go out there. But that, I mean, it's like a unique story that I can tell, because who meets their spouse, 1,900 miles away from home, and then we started our family together, and we have 3 boys that keep us busy, and we we've moved 7 different times across the United States a bunch of times, and the resiliency from, you know, a military child's perspective. I mean, I've never lived it, so I don't know, but I know that my three, the experience that they have in life, hopefully is going to be something that they can look back on and just feel, you know, grateful that they had those opportunities.
Yeah, that's fair. What are some of the challenges for the children and for your wife, like just being a military family?
I mean, I mean, one thing that I'm looking at now is I'm at, you know, 17 and a half, you know, almost 18 years where I'm about to hit my retirement window. Uh, as the kids are all into school, uh, and you have to come home and say, hey, you know, that there might not be, you know, you might not do school here next year. Um, but as we know that there's potential for move, trying to get the kids to understand that that we might have to move, and hearing their side of it, that's kind of the hardest I feel lately.
Yeah, I would assume that's probably super hard, especially like as your kids are getting older and older. I mean, young kids, they can kind of go back and forth and probably be more resilient. But as your kid grows up, especially in the high school and middle school, and that's why the military does stabilization for 2 years or whatever, is for people in that kind of situation.
Right?
But what about for your spouse, for your wife?
She's tougher than nails, man. You know, I think together in all the moves and being away from family, we've utilized, you know, each other to get through things, and uh, I think that, you know, what our family's been through, and I think that just being, you know, each other's rock is important for, you know, success of our family as a whole.
Yeah. How old are all your kids right now?
13, 9, and 7.
Yeah, so there's 2 years and 4 years apart
Yeah.
ish. Yeah, so my family, we have three under five, and I can tell you that I could not do what she does. Like the amount of, I'm sure, just stress and doing it by yourself because we are a one income family, and I go to work and I do the things, but I would say that her job is much harder, especially mentally. Maybe not physically, but mentally. I don't know if I could sit there and deal with changing diapers, feeding, sleeping, all the things that parents need to do. She's doing two jobs in one, and I think that's
No.
the spouse doesn't get enough credit for most of us.
Yeah, the spouse's job is absolutely way harder than what we do now. You
Yeah,
know, uh, there's, I mean, I don't think that it even touches what we do as soldiers to try to be a spouse in the Army. I mean, there's, you know, my youngest was 2.5 and diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and we're 2,000 miles away from home and no family, and you know who stepped up and was there is the organization that I was in at the time. You know, provided me the opportunity to have the time off, take care of my family, and be where I needed to be at that moment. Um,
I'm sure
but
that's pretty hard on.
I mean, it was something that I would never have guessed would have happened or wish upon any family, let alone a military family that doesn't have, you know, grandma and grandpa next door that can watch the kids.
How old was he when he got
He was
diagnosed?
2.5.
Yeah, that's being a father. That would probably be extremely hard, even with family around, like your organic family, your mom, your dad, your
Oh,
grandparents. Being away and just having this army family and the people around you and each other, that has to be like somebody in an emotional roller coaster. Really, probably. I don't know how you dealt with it, honestly.
yeah. I mean, we leaned on each other. Um, it was crazy, you know, and every day you didn't know what was going to happen next, and you're just hoping for the best. But you know, which leads into how the Army is also taking care of my family is that out of all the medical and things that Jackson went through, is we didn't see not one medical bill from any of it, you know. And now that he's 7 years old and living his best life, it's amazing to see and have the comfort that the military and our insurance took care of my family in that aspect.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, dude. Honestly, it's now. I mean, I know Jackson, and he's a normal kid. He does normal things, but
Yeah.
I'm sure at the time, just the unknown was probably the most scariest thing. But having the insurance, having the paycheck, having the family that surrounded you, and though they're not your blood, like it probably put a little, as much as you can at ease.
Right.
Where do you? So he's good now, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like now?
I mean, he has to go back every other month and get blood checks. They do a once over on him. It's part of the protocol of it, but we'll do that. Up to the 5 year point until he reaches 5 years off treatment, and then he'll go annually to his normal, young adult checkups that he should be getting to make sure he's healthy, and hopefully, God willing, it all stays away and he remains healthy, and all our kids remain healthy.
Right.
But it's important to know, that's one of my unknowns. Like, the Army wants to move me, but I still have, a young child that I'm trying to make sure that he has the proper medical care and specialist local, that if something does happen, that we are close. So
This might be just my ignorance, but is there ever a time that will be in his life that like it's just 100% clear, like where he doesn't have to like get checked up, or is it a lifetime thing?
I believe there's always a possibility that it comes back. We have billions of cells in our body. At one point, in any of us, there's millions of people walking around with a bad cell in their body that could just go rogue one day and create what he had. So, I mean, there's, with any individual that's ever received chemotherapy, there's potential for secondary effects later on in life where it may cause something. But at this time, we just live the best we can, and just live our life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that you're towards the end of your career, is that one of the reasons that you may stay in long, besides like just the love of the job, but is that ever in your mind, the not only the family but the medical portion of it?
I mean, it's scary. It is, like, because we do toss it around, like, what would happen if something did come back? Like, how would I afford it? Where's the insurance going to come from? I'm sure, after a 20-year retirement, I'm sure that I maintained some sort of insurance, but, being active duty, I just never had to worry about any of that stuff. So those are all things that you think about, but there's an unknown to it that.
Yeah, I've never looked into it enough to know what insurance looks like afterwards, and that is one of the scariest things, at least for me. Like I said, I have 3 kids under 5. They're all relatively healthy from what I know. But what if, as soon as I get out, something happens? What does that look like? And what kind of security will I or will I not have? And that's a scary unknown, honestly. So.
And that's for any soldier, retiring, getting out. The transition point for anybody is always a scary time, and I think that as we get closer, and the both of us, we need to sit down with the professionals and the organizations that set people up for transition out of the military, and you understand your benefits and you understand what you're getting yourself into. Take advantage of the programs that are out there, and I mean, just like you already went out and got your degree. That's one step towards future success and what you can lead yourself to. And honestly, I'm looking at you and your accomplishments, and I'm like, how can I be like Barber in the aspect of I need to knock out my degree So I have that, backfall if I need to have a degree for a job when I do retire. Even though I do have 20 years of military experience, some organizations don't care. It's what you are going to be beneficial to their organization when you come on board, regardless of what your military experience was.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that the military retirement, I think you as an individual will probably be okay, and you as a family will probably be okay with having that stability, a paycheck constantly coming in, and it keeps up with inflation. Whereas somebody that just has a nest egg or a 401k that's not in the military, however large their nest egg is, as they withdraw, that nest egg typically gets smaller and smaller. Whereas a pension will get larger and larger.
Right.
So our stability actually remains for our entire lives. Which
I mean, dude, the Army as a whole has been an adventure that, looking back on it, I mean, I would do it all over again. I mean, does it always suck to start from the bottom and make the least amount of money, but you feel like you're putting in the most work and you're doing all this stuff? Kind of, but that's any job that you start at. You're never going to start at the top, and that's why, as a young soldier, I learned the importance of working hard, building a foundation of my own leadership styles and learning from others, and and hopefully all the stuff that I learned in my past and learned, good, bad, as I get older, it benefits others and makes a continuous impact. And I try to come to work every day and impact others to make others feel like their job is worthy to come to work for.
I'm just curious, what rank do you think is the most important in the Army? I have my thoughts.
I think mid-level non-commissioned officers, your staff sergeants, your sergeant first classes, and some super high-speed sergeants are your most important. I mean, the core of the non-commissioned officer has got to be solid in any organization to be successful. I mean, I've never been to an organization where it was full of young soldiers that just did what they were not told to do.
Yeah.
Whereas you have a group of sergeants and staff sergeants will see a problem, they'll assess it, find resources, and fix it. I think that the NCOs are, the backbone of the Army for a reason. What's yours? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I would say that.
Don't give me no lieutenant.
No, not at all. I would say that the most important rank in the Army is probably the sergeant, the initial induction of the NCO. And I think that's the reason that is one, you have to separate yourself from what you were a day ago. Two, they're typically like the pit bulls of the Army. They're eager, they're young, they're still motivated, they're still just maybe a little too aggressive sometimes, because I would think that those individuals are the ones that make the biggest impact. They have leadership above them and below them, and they're just the rubber that meets the road. And without them, then I think we would be in a bad place. And because they're still young, they're still moldable, and that's the key part of it, is moldable. They're not stuck in their ways, and they haven't been in for so long that they're unteachable.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can't combat that. Those are all facts. It's just your staff sergeant is gonna reel that young sergeant in that kicked over the garbage can at work that day. He's going to ensure that as a young sergeant or seasoned sergeant, like if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you have than your staffs and your, sergeant first class platoon sergeants that are going to
Yeah.
reel you in and make sure that you're doing what you got to do. But yeah, I mean,
The unsung hero are the privates, so.
the unsung heroes of the privates.
Yeah, they're the worker bees. They're the ones that actually get the shit done. So
Yeah, as long as they're not playing on their phones and complaining that you're working them too hard.
yeah, there you go. I guess the final question is, what is the most important advice that you could give someone, whether they're in the military or not, based on life experience?
I think just being a good person. I mean, come to work, whether you're having a shitty day, a good day. The people to your left or right are the ones that are there with you, and just being a good neighbor. And good neighbor is pretty general, but when somebody needs you, if you're able, you're there. Making an impact in a positive way in someone's life to make better for the community. And honestly, I think that, I mean, I'm not looking for world peace, but I'm talking just, I watched your previous videos where the guy said that he was leaning on his friends in his darkest times. You never know what somebody's going through when you just need somebody to say hello or, hey, how are you? Just basic being a good human to people, I think is the most simple advice.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate everything that you do. We'll see you next time.
Get out there and mow my grass.